Hello, everyone. This is our client, Austin, and the objective is to find out if there is a large enough market for art studios. This is our team. We're group 2, Mary, Macy, Jennifer, Leah, and Jared. Our research questions were, how big is the market for studio artists in the Palouse? Does artist age and type of artist affect the most important element of an art studio? What is a reasonable timeline for demand for studio in the Palouse to rise? And is location a best predictor of how willing aspiring studio artists would be to commute to Colfax for studio space? How we collected data was we created an online survey as groups and then compiled them into one survey as a class. We sent it out to art students and local artists from schools in the area, and then we ran regressions and correlations to analyze the data. A little bit about our sample. The average age was 30 years old, and the majority of people that took the survey were female, not Hispanic Latino, white Caucasian, and had some college.
Research question 1. The analysis and results that we found for research question 1 is that we expected to find the size of the market for studio artists in the Palouse to be much larger than what we saw on the survey. Because of the amount of universities in the nearby area, we were hoping for more aspiring studio artists and more people hoping to stay in the area. And then with the locals, they either don't want to commute to Colfax or they already have a studio of their own. However, it is to keep in mind that the survey responses were very low. For the specific questions that I analyzed, only 15 people filled them out. So while the results say one thing, it might not be accurate to the entire Palouse area. So there could be potential for a larger market in the Palouse. Just from our data, it does not look like there is a large market for studio artists. This first graph here is analyzing the correlation between students planning to stay in the area after graduation and students who want to become studio artists in the Palouse after graduation. So the black is who wants to be studio artists and the pink is who plans to stay local. For graph number 2, the first one was just asking students questions, and this one has some questions for the locals. So the ones without any of the black don't apply to them. But this graph is asking, does the number of students that are planning on staying in the area after graduation correlate with the number of students and locals who are interested in a place like St. Ignatius? This third graph also is finding the correlation between the number of students that want to become studio artists after graduation and if they correlate with the number of students and locals who are interested in a place like St. Ignatius.
This is research question 2. So we expected to find that both age and type of artist would predict importance 1 through 5. However, our results revealed that only age was a significant predictor of importance 4, which was distance from my home. Specifically, as age increased, so did the importance of the distance of the art studio from their home. And this is the graph that shows a positive trend line, which means that as age increases, so does the importance of the location. And about half of our respondents were over the age of 30, and 86% of respondents answered with a 4 or above.
So for our third research question, we asked, what is a reasonable timeline for the demand for studios in the Palouse to rise? And our results found that for local artists, the majority weren't very interested in working in a rural area like Colfax, Washington. And for student artists, half were not very interested and half were neutral about it. So our first graph shows if local artists were interested in working in a rural area like Colfax. And on the left, that's where the interest is, and ranging from 7, which is very likely, to 1, not very likely. And then at the bottom on the x-axis is if they consider themselves as a studio artist right now. And most of them said that they do consider themselves as a studio artist, but only one of them was very interested in working in a rural area like Colfax, whereas most of the others were not very interested. And then for our second graph, we looked into the student artists interested in working in a rural area like Colfax. And on the x-axis this time is how likely would you say that you become a studio artist immediately after you finish your art program? And most of them said that they probably wouldn't become an studio artist right after they finish their art program. And about half of them said that they were neutral about working in a rural area like Colfax, and the other half were not very interested in working in a rural area like Colfax. And our third graph shows that most of them would consider themselves to become a studio artist.
Is location the best predictor on how willing studio artists would be to commute to Colfax for studio space? For our fourth research question, we used a regression to analyze how university affiliation and distance from home may have an impact on artists' willingness to commute to Colfax in search of an artistic workplace. We expected to find that location will play a big part on how willing artists would be to commute to Colfax for studio space. Yet our results indicated that location did not play a factor in willingness to travel to Colfax for studio space. For our first regression test, we observed that university affiliation was not a significant predictor on willingness to travel to Colfax for an artistic workplace. As well, in our second regression test, we observed that distance from home was not a significant predictor as well, which led us to our results that university affiliation and distance from home did not significantly impact artists' interest in working in a rural area such as Colfax, Washington.
So we recommend taking the location of St. Ignatius Colfax into consideration as it's around 30 minutes away from Pullman. Our sample showed that about half of the artists are over 30 years old, with the oldest respondent being 50 years old. As age increases, so does the importance of distance from their home. From this data, we can infer that it might be more beneficial to market to those only in the immediate area or market to specifically students and younger artists that live far away.
Recommendation 2, utilize new marketing techniques to gain more of an audience. We feel like not many people know about St. Ignatius or have a stigma that it's haunted, so marketing specific goals and intentions would be beneficial to potential renters.
Only a small amount of people answered our survey, so these results are only a rough estimate. The size of the sample could suggest a very niche market. The question that my group put into the survey was, how much are artists willing to pay for a studio? And the answers range from $100 to $450 a month.
Some additional thoughts we had for marketing to student artists or local artists was to go on TikTok and Instagram, as that's where the popularity is, especially for student artists. That's, you can put on like events on there on the Instagram or TikTok, and that would just reach a lot more audiences. And another idea we had is renting out studios for a night or a painting event to the community and to see if anyone is interested. Even if they consider themselves not to be a studio artist, they can come by and enjoy just painting and having a night out. Another idea we had was art classes. So same kind of thing where, people can come out, take art classes if they're interested, and then learn how to, better themselves as artists. And also having flyers, so posting flyers in like art departments or in local downtowns. And then here's just a sample Instagram post that we came up for how you can market to TikTok and Instagram.